Hello, and welcome to The Season, the podcast from FYCit that goes behind the scenes of awards season. I'm your host, Ryland Aldrich, creator of the FYCit app. Before we get started, I want to acknowledge the devastating fires here in Los Angeles. So many people have lost their homes or been displaced, and the industry is deeply affected. Our hearts go out to everyone impacted, and we're hoping for strength and resilience for those navigating these incredibly difficult times. For those listeners in a position to contribute support, there are a number of worthwhile organizations aimed at helping affected entertainment industry professionals, including the Entertainment Community Fund at entertainmentcommunity.org, the MPTF at mptf.com, and the Will Rogers Motion Picture Pioneers Foundation at wrpioneers.org. Our thanks to these organizations for everything they're doing right now. On this week's episode, I'll be joined by David Barber, the president of MPSE, the Motion Picture Sound Editors. Just a quick note, this interview was recorded before the fires began. We discussed their Golden Reel Awards and the critical role MPSE plays in educating audiences on the art and importance of sound editing in film. Turning to the week ahead, award season is in a state of flux. The Academy has postponed the announcement of its nominations, which are now set for Thursday, January 23rd, and the nominees' luncheon has been canceled. Currently, the Producers Guild, Writers Guild, and ASC have delayed their nomination announcements as well, though those dates may be confirmed by the time this episode airs. Screenings are also in a holding pattern as studios typically wait for Oscar nominations to announce their Phase 2 schedules. At the time of recording, there are no new screenings on the calendar, but this could change. The FYCit app will be updated as soon as any new screenings are announced. Now, let's get to my conversation with David Barber. Today, we're joined by David Barber, president of the Motion Picture Sound Editors, where he leads efforts to celebrate the artistry and innovation of sound editing across film and television. Under his guidance, MPSE has expanded its reach, championing both established and emerging talent in an ever-evolving global industry. A well-established supervising sound editor and re-recording mixer, David has over 200 credits to his name and an impressive 15 Golden Reel nominations. As a passionate advocate for the art of sound, he joins us to discuss the state of sound editing in Hollywood and what's next for the Golden Reel Awards as they move towards their 72nd edition on February 23rd. So David, how's your season?
My season is great so far. It's nice and early, but yeah, it's good to have everybody back from the holiday breaks. Yeah, we're in it now. So
yeah. The Golden Reel Awards have been a staple in the industry for decades. How has the ceremony itself evolved during your time with MPSE? What changes or traditions are most important for you to preserve?
Well, the one thing that sets the Golden Reels apart from most other awards, in particular sound awards, is that they are voted on by peers, voted on by fellow sound persons. So that is an integral part of it, and it's what kind of sets it apart from just a popularity contest, is that you have true artisans and craftspeople that diligently listen to and vote for the eventual winners. So that is something that's been around for many, many years and something that we absolutely work to preserve year in and year out, even though it might involve a lot of heavy lifting on behalf of our board members to oversee panels and oversee categories to make sure that everything gets a fair listen, and every once in a while we find a gem in there that is not a popular one but will get a nomination. So I think that's a very critical part and something that's very special about the Golden Reels.
So you guys do something a little bit different, I believe, with the blue ribbon panel voting process for the final round. Can you explain what that is and how it might be a little bit different from some of the other voting organizations?
Sure. Well, our nomination process is done by the entire membership. Everybody gets a vote. And at that point, once we get the nominees, then we go to the blue ribbon panel, and everybody is eligible and allowed to be on a blue ribbon panel. So we highly encourage all of our members to join and be a part of a panel for a category that, you know, the only asterisk is you can't be nominated in that category. So no going in and voting for yourself. But then the blue ribbon panels watch every nominated project in full and cast their votes accordingly. And then that is how the winner comes to be. So what makes it very special is that the winners are voted on by peers, by professional artisans. So it's not simply a popularity contest. It is a thorough vetting and listening to every project that is nominated to get our winners.
And do you have like a set number of Blue Ribbon panel members, or is there a target that you're looking for with those?
There are minimums, but we prefer as many votes as possible. So we're on a recruiting process right now to send out and notify every member that they have the right to join a Blue Ribbon panel, and everyone is welcome. And you can be on more than one if you want to do a couple different categories. It really is up to the time that you're available to put in to watch the nominated shows or films.
Is that typical for people to do more than one to
Yes.
really get into it?
Yes, people very, very much get into it, and they enjoy jumping around, because getting on a panel to vote for, say, feature animation is different than long-form television, long-form broadcast effects and Foley, and it's different from, a dialogue and ADR. We try to get people that can vote in the categories of their specific disciplines too. So
Sure.
We have sound effects, sound designers, Foley artists, Foley editors trying to do a lot of the sound effects categories, dialogue, ADR editors doing the dialogue categories.
Yeah, that's fascinating. It seems like really brings it to the peer level, especially when you have the different disciplines working together like that. Do they actually get together and watch the movies together, or do they discuss together?
No, one of the directives is to not discuss, because we really want it to be individual opinions, individual views. Right. So you can't be persuaded or swayed. We don't have any guardrails in place. I can't tell if somebody's texting, "Oh, I just watched such and such and it's fantastic." And, "Oh, I haven't," But it is encouraged that everybody formulate their own opinion, watch them in their own environment, and cast their votes accordingly.
So the Golden Reels always bring together the top talent in the sound community. Is there anything specific you're looking forward to about this year's ceremony, whether it's maybe a category or special moment, something that is coming up? Well,
always look forward to just getting together with everyone. And this is our third year at the Wilshire Ebell Theater, it's been a fantastic change, in my opinion, in that it is truly an award show. Years past, it used to be a wonderful banquet, and everything happened, and you were eating, and awards were happening. But I feel like this one feels much more ceremonial, in that everybody's sitting in the same room, everybody's acknowledging their peers, everybody is listening to all the nominees. It's really a nice format. So I'm looking forward to getting back to the Ebell Theater. Patton Oswalt is going to host again, and he's hilarious, passionate, and we just have a really good time when he's there.
What goes into that decision on the host? Are you involved with that at all?
Yes, definitely. And a lot of it comes down to, as you know, most things in this business, availability and just willingness. We have a list of people that we think would be a lot of fun to have. And somebody with a passion for sound, which Patton clearly has. He took me aside last year and expressed that. I'm just absolutely fascinated by sound and what you guys do. And it's just such a thrill for me to be a part of this. And hey, you're talking our language, so he is welcome anytime.
So Patton actually made some headlines last year with some comments on his opening monologue about sort of the state of the industry coming out of the strikes. When you heard that, did you expect there'd be any controversy at all?
No. For me, with comedy's comedy. And if it's something that raises an eyebrow, I go, okay, I take it in the spirit intended and go forward from there. If he's poignant and edgy, I love it.
We had Jenny McCormick from ACE on the program earlier this season, and she talked about how they would visit other award shows and take lessons, for instance, on set design from the Set Decorators Awards.
Right.
Is this something that you've ever done, looked at the other craft awards and seen how they could affect the Golden Reels?
Absolutely. A number of us have either friends, colleagues, spouses in other parts of the industry. So we have a good wealth of people that go to different award shows. And there's also a nice exchange that happens. We'll reach out to other presidents, vice presidents, or board members from other entities and vice versa, and encourage them to come, because we want it to be an industry-wide celebration, and I think they do too. So we absolutely do go look and see, hey, that was really cool. That's something that we might want to integrate while still creating your own show. Yeah, a good idea is a good idea no matter where it is.
The awards last year were your first as MPSE president, and it was a bit of a challenging time coming out of the strikes. How is the sound community rebounding post-strikes?
That, I think we have to stamp a big TBD on it, but the work that was done this last year, I look at the list of nominees and the quality of work, it's as outstanding as ever. It's as voluminous as ever. We had more submissions this year than we've ever had. So I think those are all great indicators that hopefully we're crossing over that hump. Obviously, we're still recovering back from COVID and then the things that did to the industry. And then that was followed by the strikes. And then that carried over into kind of a rethinking of streaming services and their business plan. So all of these things, it's really kind of been a 5-year roller coaster that I'm thinking and feeling that in 2025, everybody's ready to be on the downhill slope of that roller coaster and get back to it and just start working on some great projects.
A lot of the craft awards are sort of cumulatively all referred to as guild awards, but of course, MPSE is not a guild. It's a
Correct.
Professional organization. Can you talk a little bit about the difference between a guild and an organization like MPSE and some of the things that you guys do to champion and support sound professionals?
Yes. In our role as a professional organization, we are really looking to promote sound to the industry and beyond the industry, because that's really where the importance of the message lies. People to this day, I've been doing this for over 20 years. Friends and family still don't know what I do. I say, I do sound for film, and they knew me as a musician from before. So they say, so you write all the music. I'm like, no, I don't write all the music. I do the sound. I do the backgrounds, the ambiences, the dialogue, this. They go, what's that? I think one of the biggest things, I did a STEAM event, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math event at local elementary schools and middle schools and the high school. I broke down a car chase that I had just done. And so I brought them the layers. I'm like, okay, here are the layer that just the tires. Here's the skids. Here's the engine for the car. Here's the engine for the motorcycle. Here's the Foley of them putting on the helmet and the leather jackets. Here's the Walla, and here's the Doppler horns. And then I played it all together, and it just sounds like it, quote unquote, should. And the kids loved it because it was a car chase, but they all left the room and all their parents stayed. They said, I had no idea. So like everything is like an individual sound, and you guys put it in, and and that was one of the things that kind of, when I made the decision to run for president, I said, that's a message that we have to get beyond our walls. And that's really what our focus as an organization is, we want to do great things for our membership, but I don't think we can do anything greater for our membership than have people aware and appreciative of what it is that we actually do.
Yeah, this reminds me of your Did You Hear series that you've got on social media, which has these quick, engaging insights into the craft of sound. Is that part of your overall goal to really educate about what's going on in the soundscapes of these films? That
is. And those were really crafted not for the sound community. I wanted them to be fun enough for people that do sound, that they might offer little tidbits behind the scenes of their favorite films or different favorite sounds. But I really wanted it to be appealing to anybody that's just on Instagram or TikTok or whatnot that would associate a human being with a sound that they know and love, but never knew how it came to be. So that was absolutely the focus of that campaign. And hopefully we'll get some more of those going in 2025.
So when you took over as the MPSE president at the end of 2023, you said your goal was to build on the organization's expansion during Mark Lanza's tenure. Does that include this outside of the organization, the knowledge, or are you looking more at growing the membership? And what steps have you taken to keep things growing and thriving?
All of the above, really. One of the things that I definitely want to grow the membership, and I do want to grow the visibility of the MPSE in sound. And we've taken several steps to kind of move that forward in our first year here, in my first year here. First, let me give a shout out to the board, because they're absolutely the best board of directors that I could ever want to be a part of. And those 20 some odd people are the reason that I decided to throw my hat in the ring, because I knew the positive army that I had behind me sitting there. And they were all enthusiastic. As opposed to asking people to join the MPSE, what I really want to be is an organization that people see doing positive things and see making some waves out there, and that they go, I want to be a part of that organization. So let the visibility, let the actions of the organization be the recruiting tool, kind of thing. In that regard, we have, under Eric Marks, vice president now, under his stewardship, we've created an MPSE Presents program where we're trying to celebrate anniversaries of great sound films. And the first one we did was The Matrix, and we did it at Warner Brothers. And it was such a great success that we did another Matrix event in New York City last June. So one of the things that historically has been difficult has been to reach our members that are beyond Los Angeles. And so obviously, me being a non-Los Angeles-based president, I agree, and I want to expand the reach of those events and start having events internationally and across the country in some of the other major production hubs. And we're doing that this upcoming year. We have just signed on to open up the Vaughn Film Festival and have a screening up in Toronto. I'm going to be doing a New York event at NYU in April with Ron Bokar and the team from The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I'm trying to get something going with SCAD down in Georgia. And we are also looking to have an event in London. So we're really looking to push the reach and just start communing with our sound people from around the world.
Yeah, it seems that international expansion is a big part of a lot of organizations' goals right now. Talk a little bit more about why that's important when it comes to something like MPSE.
It's important just simply because there are great people that have a passion for sound around the world, and that's who we want to be with. That's who we want to have be a part of our organization. We just sponsored an event called Sonic Days in Denmark. Sonic Days it's Sonic College. There's actually a college for sound in Denmark. And so Sonic Days brought in professionals from around the world, and we had we sponsored the MPSE Theater, where the main theatrical events were and a lot of panels were, and we had members go over there and be a part of that. And so it was just a wonderful way to show support the international sound community, and we plan on doing that again this year.
So you're not only the president of MPSE, you're also working sound editor and mixer with over 200 credits and 15 Golden Reel nominations, I might add. Mm-hmm. How has it been balancing both aspects of your career?
Let's see. It's tough. Mark said, it's going to eat up a lot of time. It's going to eat up a lot of time. And I thought, how much time is it actually going to eat up, Mark? And then I get into it, and it eats up the amount of time that you're willing to put into it. And Mark was very passionate and set a high bar for what you do as a president. So I feel like I owe it to him to at least match that. But it does. It's time consuming, but it's very rewarding. So, and it supports the greater mission. We need to sell sound to the industry. We need to sell sound to beyond the industry, because the people beyond the industry talk to people in the industry. And if it ever became a thing where, hey, producer X, their kid asks them, who do you have doing the sound on your movie? That would be an enormous win. So again, that goes to just getting people excited and passionate about it, and not thinking of it as an assumption or like, of course it should sound like that.
You mentioned that there was some conversations with the board that helped you make the decision to run for president. Can you talk a little bit more about that sort of personal decision-making that went into your decision to take a leadership role?
Sure. Yeah, it was not something that I was ever thought that I could see myself doing, but I got a lot of encouragement from key people on the board, key people in my life. My wife was the president of a nonprofit for a period of time, so I got to see what she had to go through. So I said, oh, well, maybe. But she said, and you're not going for it. Why? And I said, all right, well, if that's if that's where we are, then I'll give it a go. Obviously, the family support was the key putting you over the edge, because without that, you can't do it. There's just too much to put forward.
You mentioned that bringing more awareness of sound's role in film is a big part of MPSE's mission. Sound's often, and particularly sound editing, is often described as a bit of a hidden art. Mm-hmm. What do you wish that audiences understood a little bit better about sound editing in particular's role?
That it is a creative. There are technical aspects of sound, but it is an extremely creative part of the movie-going experience. And everything that is done for a reason. Sounds are selected for a reason. Sounds are placed in a certain place for a reason. And all of that has a visceral impact on the viewer. It's actually the physical side, watching something with no sound, that's just your eyes watching images on a screen. But sound actually is vibrations through the air. It's actually physically hitting your body. It is moving you. So the low sub that brings up some tension or some high shrill shriek in a horror movie. Sound is a physical aspect of film. I think because it's something that is not visible, it's very overlooked as to its importance and as to the importance of the artistry of how those sounds got there. So that's a big ask, because most people just want to watch a movie and enjoy it. But I think it's also very, very fun. And that was to circle back to the Did You Hears. Wanted to point out the aspects of fun that can be had that you had no idea that went in to make you feel something as a viewer.
It's funny that when we talked to Will Files last week, he mentioned something very similar about not thinking of it just as a technical field, but how much artistry and craft goes into that. So I see that really clearly. Or hear it really clearly.
Yeah.
On the season, in award season, more generally, we tend to focus on film and also TV. Mm-hmm. But MPSE also honors video games. I'm curious why that's important from a sound editing perspective, and maybe how sound editing is different when it comes to games than for film and TV projects.
Sound editing for games, for a long time, it's been kind of an unsung hero of the sound community, but it's very creative. And if you think about what happens in a video game, well, now they're getting even crazier with the VR stuff, but the sounds that they move around you, they move close, they move away, and it all depends on the actions of the player. So editing sounds, creating sounds, and then mixing those sounds and getting them in to the game is a distinctly different art than linear, where you're attaching sounds to something that's moving in front of your face. So over the years, we've been talking, a lot of people from the film world went into game sound, right. And they translated a lot of those talents for design into the gaming world. And now there are people that have come up exclusively in the game sound world that are taking the baton and running that to the next level. And we think that all of that, it is sounds that are matching moving pictures. So we think all that artistry rightfully needs to be acknowledged.
Yeah, you mentioned immersive sound worlds for VR games. How are you seeing those sort of advances in technology and perhaps even coming advances when it comes to AI playing a role in sound and challenges that might present professionals in the field?
Oh, the dreaded AI word. The AI part is a very touchy subject. It's hard to deny that we've been using AI in some form or another in a lot of the processes that we've been doing through the years, but it's different. Assistive AI and generative AI are two different kind of lineages of that animal. I'll profess I haven't done a lot of VR work, so I'm not terribly schooled in how all of that goes down. But I think people are getting more and more interested in that. I know the Oculus is a very popular selling product, and I think we're just going to be seeing more and more products that fit that format in the near future.
Have you seen generative AI playing a role when it comes to sound editing?
Generative AI, some of it has its place. It's one of those things where you kind of fear the ubiquity of it, and lowering the barrier of entry into the profession or into thinking that you've created something when you just typed 3 words into a prompt. I just don't think that is good for the art.
So the MPSE has long prioritized mentoring and supporting emerging talent through programs like the Verna Field Student Award. In an increasingly challenging industry landscape, how is MPSE helping to set newcomers up for success and ensure they have the tools and opportunities to thrive in the sound profession?
Well, absolutely. The Verna Fields Award, our student award, I am thrilled to say it. It used to be confined to very few and specific schools that you would see year in and year out. And this year, I'm looking at the list, we have a nominee from Chapman, a nominee from BYU, a nominee from the National Film and Television School, USC, Savannah College of Art and Design, and the Beijing Film Academy. So we've been reaching out to schools to let them know that the student award was a thing. Again, this comes back to the awareness, and we've done a really great job of outreach to various schools to make them aware. So we got more submissions from more schools, and there's so much talent out there that it's just really inspirational to see. We will continue to do that. We'll also be offering up opportunities for our members to go to these schools and have discussions about sound, because it's not really just talking one-to-one with the students that are interested in sound, but it's also talking to the directors. It's more importantly talking to the directors, talking to the future producers, talking to the future editors, and just kind of getting it in their brains early on that sound is an important part of their film. And I have so many producers and directors that I work with that will come in and they say, I don't feel like we've made the movie until we're on the stage putting the sound in. And I think that's a great sentiment, and we want to be able to instill that early.
Yeah, if you were talking to some film students who perhaps were looking at different crafts and knew they wanted to be filmmakers of some kind, but weren't exactly sure which direction to go, anything you would recommend about what makes a good sound editor or what they should be interested in if they're considering sound?
Sure. I would say a passion for it. I don't know. It's something that you can kind of talk yourself into. Either you get in there and you're in the theater and like the bomb goes off in Oppenheimer and, you know, that sound wave comes over you. Either you go, whoa, from the sonic impact of it, or you don't. And I love to hear when people get impacted by a sound or a sonic event in a film. And then that's the trigger. That's the thing that just started them down the path. I think most people have a passion for music, and I see sound design and I see mixing, and basically audio post is kind of an extension. It's a very musical extension of the film. You know, the voice is your lead vocal. Everything else you're orchestrating around it. You're having dynamics. You're pulling people up, pulling down, pull their emotions this way. It doesn't have to be done with an orchestra. It's done with trees. It's done with motors. It's done with, you know, many, many dynamic elements that go into a soundtrack. So if that's the kind of thing that gets you excited, I'd say you've probably found the right path. So people ask me, when are you going to retire? And I say, what do you mean retire? Well, I absolutely love doing it and love what I do. So why would I want to stop?
You mentioned that you had a background in music, but did you have that bomb goes off moment for you, or you knew that you had a career waiting for you in post sound?
Well, I did and I didn't. Obviously, of my generation, then Bert's work on Star Wars, everybody knows it. Pew, pew, vroom, vroom. You know, we've been living that since our childhood, and that just sits in there and it sits deep. But I wasn't on the path to audio post at all in my career. I got here very late, actually, I would consider it. And it was merely some opportunities that came my way and somebody pointed me in the direction. And that's another thing, is I didn't know that it was a thing, you know, a career, a path to pursue until my early to mid 30s. So that's something where that's the MPSE's mission, to get the message of sound beyond the industry out into the public so that people know that it's actually something you can do for a living. It's a passion you can follow.
Wonderful, David. Well, we like to end all of our interviews here on the season with a lightning round. Just quick questions, quick answers.
Oh, gosh.
What is your favorite award show to attend?
Golden Reels.
What is your favorite film festival to attend?
I'd probably go with Sundance.
Do you prefer Emmy season or Oscar season?
Both?
No preference at all?
No, it's evolved. I'd say before I got into the industry, it was Oscar season. But afterwards, after I've been in the industry, and the way the industry has evolved, there's so much great work that's going into television. Emmy season is very exciting as well.
Do you have a post-award season ritual?
Yes, get started on everything that you put off during award season.
Do you have a least favorite award speech cliche?
I'll refrain to answer that one.
Would you be more likely to cry or swear during an acceptance speech?
I would hope that I could hold them together. Neither, but I would probably say cry.
Do you prefer to watch FYC screenings at home or in the theater?
I have a theater in my home where nice. I mix, so I do like to be able to watch things here.
Do you have a favorite past appetizer at a screening reception?
Probably anything with steak in it.
At an award show, do you prefer theater or table seating?
As I mentioned before, I think I'm fond of the theater.
Finally, what is one early award season prediction you're willing to make? Does not have to have anything to do with sound.
Early season prediction?
It's not that early anymore, I guess.
Right. No, yeah, it is upon us. Boy, I always hesitate to make any predictions. I would say that Wicked is going to have some good nights, but it did mediocre at the Golden Globes, so now I don't know what to say.
Yeah, it's wide open this year.
It really is.
David Barber, thank you so much for joining us on this season. Great conversation.
I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
We're back, and I'm here with our FYCit field agent, Tony Miros. First off, Tony, I know you're in New York right now, but want to make sure your LA home is safe. I'm sure you know many people affected by the fires.
Yeah, it's so stressful. I feel kind of guilty. I was telling my friends that. I said, I feel guilty that I'm not there, but I keep in touch with them. Actually, it's funny. The only news we get here is national, so that's not good enough. So I've been watching KTLA on my computer. So everything, I need to know what's going on. No, but my apartment's great, and my friends, some of them are on edge as everybody else, but nobody seems to have been affected that much. So my thoughts and prayers with everybody out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we echo that sentiment as well. So FYC season rolls on, although we are at a little bit of a quiet time, but things were still happening over the last week. What did you get up to?
Yeah, actually, I had a good week, believe it or not. I got to go to the Paris Theater again by the Plaza Hotel to see the Netflix documentary Will and Harper, which I had purposely not seen because I wanted to see it on the big screen. And I was pleasantly surprised by it. It was very emotional, and I didn't expect Will Ferrell to actually have tears on screen, but he did. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's about him and his close friend, who was the former head writer at SNL, who go cross country together, and his friend is now transitioned into a woman. So it's very interesting, the dynamics there. The audience actually had a great time. There was lots of people laughing and teary eyed. It was an interesting screening. Yeah,
and at the Paris too, a great place to see that.
Oh yeah, it was great. You know, I love the Paris. And then you go downstairs, you get the popcorn and the soda and everything says Paris on it. I'm like, I feel so fancy.
What else did you get up to?
And then I went to go to MoMA. They have 4 theaters, believe it or not, in MoMA. It's right off of Avenue of the Americas on 53rd Street to go see Nickel Boys. And the one that we went to was their larger theater, which has 400 seats. And I couldn't believe it. It was packed. And no, there were no seats available anywhere. I was like, wow. Like, I thought there was going to be a Q&A with the director, and I'm sitting there waiting and nothing happened. So I guess that was wrong, but it was a good film and we saw it. And actually, you know what? It's very interesting to go to MoMA because I haven't been to that museum yet. So when you're going down to the theater, you're seeing like little exhibits. I'm like, oh, I got to come back. So I don't know. I suggest you go there if you can go see a film.
Yeah. So you said it was completely packed. That brings up an interesting question. Do you try to time your arrival at a screening based on how busy you think it's going to be to make sure you can get the right seat, or is there any kind of calculus that goes on there?
Yeah, I do. But, you know, that was more in LA because I kind of knew, there's going to be a huge line for this and the DGA and the London and all that. But here in New York, it's so funny because I can't really time it. I could give myself a half an hour beforehand. And it was funny because I gave myself a half an hour. And when we got into the theater, it was packed. The only seats that were available were in the front row. So I'm like, all right, I got front row seats. I just happened to be open, but that's the way I don't care. I can sit in the front row. You know what I thought about when I was there? It kind of reminded me of the Billy Wilder Theater at the Hammer Museum. So if you want to if that puts in your head what it was like, that was the type of theater.
Do you have a favorite seat at a given screening room or just in general? Where do you like to sit?
Well, I'm kind of spoiled. I like the center in midway. But if there's like a Q&A, I don't mind sitting a little closer, because I need to get good photos. I put all this stuff on my website and stuff, so I get excited. I have to take pictures. I just do. It's part of my whole thing.
Was that it, or did you make it anything else?
No. So I'm leaving the best for last. At the Whitby Hotel, you know this, Ryland, I'm loving the Whitby. I went to go see a screening of Hard Truths, and we had a Q&A afterwards, and there was a reception. And I don't know what happened, Ryland. I think I RSVP'd to an AMPS screening because when I walked in, I almost fainted when I'm looking at all the seats, and they all have names like Falco and Baryshnikov. I'm not joking. And so I'm like, wait a minute, where am I? So I go to the seats. They were free up seats in the upper level. So I sat there and I'm sitting there and I'm waiting, and in walks Mikhail Baryshnikov, and in comes Edie Falco, and in comes Steve Buscemi. And I was like, oh my God, I have hit the mother lode in New York. The funny part is, so I go to the restroom because they give us popcorn and drinks and stuff. I go to the restroom and I get to the line, and there standing is Mark Ruffalo. And I'm standing right behind him. And he and I took a selfie online to the bathroom. Okay. That was the highlight of my day. But then we saw Hard Truths. That's what we were there for. Mike Lee and Marianne Jean Baptiste were doing a Q&A afterwards. She's marvelous in this film. I don't know if you've seen Hard Truths yet. She's marvelous. I don't know about the film. I'll put it this way. Another person who was at the screening was Brenda Vaccaro. I don't know if you remember her. She was from the 70s. She was an Academy Award nominee. Anyway, she's got this gravelly voice, kind of like Kathleen Turner. So in the middle of the film, it's a little slow going, and I hear out of the middle of the theater, Brenda Vaccaro, because it was her distinct thing. She goes, ugh. And then 20 minutes later, again, I swear to God, if Mikhail Baryshnikov didn't hear her, he's deaf. So afterwards, my mom went with me to this. She was spellbound by all this. So when we finished during the reception, because there was champagne and hors d'oeuvres, I forgot to tell you all this. This is the best part of my whole week. Anyway, so I sat my mom next to somebody. I don't know who it was. I come back and she's sitting next to Brenda Vaccaro and her sister. And she goes, I could hear this distinctly. Oh my God, 2 hours of suffering for what? Anyway, gotta love Brenda. I had the best time at that. I gotta tell you, the Whitby Hotel for me, that's the place to be.
So, Tony, I know that FYC screenings are hitting that little bit of a break in between the end of voting for the Oscars and when the nominations come out. What are you going to get up to in New York over the next week?
Well, I understand why we're all waiting, and it's tough. I am going to be here. I'm going to be going to see some shows. I'm going to make the best of my time. I'm actually going to go see The Brutalist, which is playing at Lincoln Square. It is not an official screening, but I need to see this film because it already won the Golden Globe, and I'm going to try and catch up on some other things that I haven't seen. So I'm going to keep myself busy. I'm also going to try and see if I can watch any of the awards that are happening so that we can talk about that too.
That's great. Yep. Shelling out some money. Finally, the film industry is making some money off you, Tony.
Finally. But you know me, I'll find one with a Q&A somewhere.
Thanks so much to our FYCit field agent, Tony Miros, and to David Barber for the great conversation. Again, we send our very best to everyone in LA. With things in their current state, we may take a week or two off from the season. But don't worry, the season will be back in your feed when award season gets back on track, hopefully soon. We'd love to hear what you think of the season. You can leave us a review on your podcast app or drop us a line at podcast@fycit.app. If you enjoyed today's episode, please tell a friend. And don't forget to follow us on social media at FYCit app. You can also visit FYCit.app to sign up for our newsletter, download the FYCit app, and stay up to date on everything happening this award season. Join us again next time for another episode of The Season as we dive deeper into stories behind the awards. Until then, remember, at FYCit, award season starts here.